Let's talk about Friedrich Nietzsche. Just hearing the name probably brings up some pretty intense images, right? Nihilism, cruelty, the guy who said God is dead and just left us hanging. Look, his work has been feared, it's been banned, and it has been so dangerously twisted for more than a century. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on what might be his most explosive book and really get to the heart of what he was trying to say.
Beyond Good and Evil has this just terrifying reputation. People think it's a book that wants to tear down all morality and leave us with nothing but a ruthless desire to dominate. And, that fear makes sense. The ideas in here are so radical, they challenge our deepest held beliefs so much that it's always been easier to just turn Nietzsche into a caricature than to actually face what he's saying. But the real danger? It was never in the book itself. It's in how badly it's been misunderstood.
Okay, to get Nietzsche, you have to understand that he didn't show up to the party with a scalpel. He showed up with a hammer. And his first target was the entire foundation of Western thought. With just this one line right in the preface, he smashes together these two massive pillars of our world, Greek philosophy and Christianity, and basically calls them a fairy tale, a simplified story about pure spirit and the good that's been fed to the masses for centuries. This is where he starts swinging.
Right. So before Nietzsche can build anything new, he's got to clear the ground. And that means taking a sledgehammer to the biggest assumption in all of philosophy, the idea that truth, with a capital T, is always a good thing we should be chasing. And this is the kind of thing that just stops you in your tracks. I mean, for centuries, every philosopher was asking, what is truth? Nietzsche comes along and asks a much more fundamental, much more disturbing question. Why truth? He suggests that this whole will to truth we're so proud of might just be another prejudice. What if, he asks, a little bit of illusion, a little uncertainty, even a little ignorance is actually more valuable for living? It's a shocking idea, and it sets the stage for everything that comes next. So Nietzsche looks at the history of philosophy and basically says, you guys are all obsessed with opposites. You assume truth has to come from truth, and good has to come from good. He calls this the belief in antitheses of values. But then he throws out this wild alternative. What if our best qualities, our goodness, aren't the opposite of our worst qualities at all? What if they're actually deeply connected? Maybe even just a more refined, more evolved version of them.
Okay, so let's be crystal clear about this because it's the whole point. Beyond good and evil does not mean be evil. It means having the guts to step outside of the pre-packaged framework of good versus evil that we've all inherited and ask, hey, where did these labels even come from? It's about conducting a total reevaluation of all our values, looking at the very foundations of morality without blinking.
So, once Nietzsche's hammer has turned the old idols to dust, what does he build in their place? Well, this is where we get to his most famous, and his most dangerously misunderstood ideas, his theory of morals and the infamous will to power.
This is absolutely critical to understand. Nietzsche is not telling you how you should live. He's not saying, go be a master, don't be a slave. Not at all. He's acting like a philosophical archaeologist. He's digging into history to uncover the origins of our value systems, and he's describing two fundamentally different ways humans have gone about creating morality.
All right, let's break this down. With master morality, you have the powerful, the nobles. They look at themselves, their strength, their creativity, and say, this is good. Anything that isn't like them is just bad. It's beneath them. But slave morality starts from the opposite end, with the oppressed. They look up at their masters and say, those people are evil. And if they are evil, then everything they are not, humble, sympathetic, patient, well, that must be good. See? Morality isn't some absolute truth written in the stars. For Nietzsche, it's all about your perspective.
And for Nietzsche, the ultimate historical example of this was what he called the slave insurrection in morals. He points to ancient Judaism, a tradition later inherited by Christianity, as the turning point. This was the moment, he says, that slave morality won. The weak flipped the whole script. They pulled off this kind of spiritual revenge where the old aristocratic values were inverted, and suddenly, the wretched alone are the good. The poor, the impotent, the lowly alone are the good.
Which brings us to the single most twisted, most abused idea in all of philosophy, the will to power. When most people hear that phrase, they immediately think of tyrants, of domination, of jackboots, and honestly, there's a reason for that. His work was manipulated after his death by his anti-Semitic sister, and later it was hijacked by the Nazis to prop up their horrific ideology. They turned this idea into a sick blueprint for tyranny. But that is a complete, total, fundamental perversion of what Nietzsche meant.
The will to power is not about power over other people. It's about power over yourself. It's that internal drive that pushes an artist to create something beautiful, that pushes an athlete to shatter a record, that pushes a thinker to grasp a new idea. It is the deep biological impulse in all life to grow, to expand, to strive, to become more than it currently is. It's all about self-overcoming.
And for Nietzsche, this wasn't just some psychological quirk in humans. He saw this drive everywhere, in everything. He thought it was the fundamental engine of reality itself. If you could peel back the surface of the universe and see its inner workings, you wouldn't find some grand plan. You would just find this endless, striving, creative force, the will to power.
So, if we question truth, and we understand that morality is just a matter of perspective, and we see all of life as this great will to power, then what's the goal? Where are we supposed to go from here? For Nietzsche, the whole point is the creation of a new kind of human being, the free spirit, or the new philosopher.
Now, when he says commanders and lawgivers, don't think of a politician or a dictator. Think of an artist of the self. The free spirit is someone who is strong enough to stand completely alone, to reject the comfortable morality of the herd and what he called modern ideas, things like democracy and equality, which he worried were just leveling everyone down. These new philosophers don't just discover values that are already out there, they create them. They see suffering not as a curse to be avoided, but as a tool, a discipline that forges them into something greater.
And this really is what it all comes down to. This is the true meaning of power in Nietzsche's world. It's not about dominating anyone else, it's about mastering yourself. The final goal isn't to be good according to some old inherited definition. It's to live with such intensity and creativity that you develop a deep, profound respect for yourself and for what you are capable of becoming. A radical kind of self-reverence. So, you see, Beyond Good and Evil isn't a handbook for how to be a cruel nihilist. It's a challenge. Nietzsche takes his hammer and shatters the old tablets of law, but he doesn't leave us standing in the rubble. He hands us the chisel. He forces every single one of us to ask the ultimate question. Now that the old values are broken, what new ones will you have the courage to create for yourself?